They say money can buy almost anything, but not loyalty. And for billionaire restaurant owner Charles Whitmore, that lesson came at a devastating price. Charles had built an empire from the ground up, turning a single seafood shack on the pier into a chain of luxury restaurants around the globe. His secret? Trusting the right people, or so he thought. One of those people was Chef Lorenzo, a talented man with a golden resume and a charming smile. Charles treated him like family, even naming him head of operations for the newest flagship location. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. While the dining room sparkled and guests were served with flawless elegance, something darker simmered in the kitchen. Orders were missing, ingredients were vanishing, and the numbers weren't adding up. Charles noticed the red flags, but he brushed them off. After all, Lorenzo had been with him for years. Why would he ever lie? But then came Mia, the waitress who had only been on the job for 3 weeks. Quiet, observant, and always on time, Mia had no idea she was about to uncover something much bigger than a messy kitchen or a rude coworker. She wasn't looking for trouble. In fact, she just moved to the city, hoping to make enough money to cover rent. But what she saw one late night after closing changed everything. While most of the staff had gone home, Mia returned to grab her forgotten phone. That's when she heard it, voices in the storage room, hushed and hurried. Curious, she crept closer and caught a glimpse of Lorenzo with a man she'd never seen before. They were exchanging something that definitely didn't belong in a restaurant. She didn't understand it all at first, but one thing was clear. Chef Lorenzo was hiding more than just recipes. Mia faced a choice: speak up and risk her job, or stay silent and protect herself. But what she did next would shock everyone, including Charles. Because when the truth came out, it wasn't just about stolen goods or shady deals. It was something far more dangerous, something that could destroy Charles's entire business. So what did Mia do? And how did her decision flip the entire situation on its head? You'll find out soon enough. But just know this, sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who sees the most. And when trust is broken, it's not always the villain who gets exposed. Sometimes it's the hero who surprises us all. Mia didn't sleep that night. Her mind kept playing back what she saw: the quick exchange, the nervous glances, and the envelope passed between Chef Lorenzo and the stranger. It didn't look like some innocent delivery. Something about it felt off. Her gut told her this was more than just restaurant drama. But what could she do? She was the newest hire, barely known, and Lorenzo was practically a celebrity in the kitchen world. Nobody would believe her word over his. The next morning, she came in early. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to look around, hoping to make sense of it all. That's when she noticed something strange. One of the dry storage shelves was locked, a lock that wasn't there the day before. And then there was the odd tension in the air. The kitchen, usually buzzing with morning prep and chatter, felt cold. Lorenzo wasn't yelling like he usually did. He was quiet, watching everyone with sharp eyes. When he saw Mia, he paused for just a second too long, just long enough for her to feel it in her spine. Charles, meanwhile, was juggling meetings and press calls, unaware of the growing unease in his prized restaurant. To him, this was just another day, another reservation list filled, another magazine article praising their world-class menu. But behind the scenes, his trusted chef was making calls at odd hours and slipping away during deliveries. And Mia, still unsure of what exactly she'd stumbled into, started noticing small things that added to the puzzle. Overstocked items that never got used, large shipments that arrived late at night, and handwritten invoices that didn't match the digital ones. There was one night when she stayed behind again, pretending to clean in the dining area. She watched through the reflection in the glass door as Lorenzo unlocked the storage and disappeared inside for nearly 20 minutes. When he came out, he looked around carefully, then left through the back door instead of the front. Mia followed, just far enough not to be seen. What she saw shocked her even more. Another exchange, this time with two men in suits, standing beside a black SUV. She didn't know what it meant yet, but something told her this wasn't just about food or money. There was a deeper game being played, and Lorenzo wasn't playing it alone. Mia thought about telling someone, but who could she trust? And more importantly, what would happen if she was wrong? The weight of what she saw pressed down on her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched now, too. Every time she passed Lorenzo in the hallway, his eyes seemed to follow her just a little too long. He knew, or at least he suspected. And if that was true, Mia was running out of time. The next few days at the restaurant felt like walking through a storm that hadn't hit yet. Everything looked normal on the surface. Tables set perfectly, waitstaff smiling, plates coming out on time. But underneath it all, something was clearly wrong. Mia felt it in every shift, in every glance that lasted a second too long, in the way Lorenzo had suddenly become extra polite to her. Too polite, almost like he was trying to keep her close enough to watch. Mia tried to act normal, but the weight of what she'd seen was eating at her. She needed someone she could trust, and that's when she thought of Alex, another server who'd been working there for over a year. Alex was laid back, smart, and seemed to know everything that went on behind the scenes. After a late shift, Mia pulled him aside and told him just enough, left out the part about the SUV, but mentioned the strange storage activity, the night meetings, and the mismatched inventory. Alex didn't laugh. He didn't even seem surprised. Instead, he looked down, sighed, and said, "You're not the first one who's noticed things around here." That one sentence changed everything. It turned out Alex had his own questions. He once saw Lorenzo slip out during a health inspection. Another time, he caught a glimpse of a document with multiple company names and fake supplier details. They didn't know exactly what it meant yet, but they knew it wasn't good. Meanwhile, Charles continued to praise Lorenzo during staff meetings, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath his business. He was preparing for a major investor visit, a potential expansion into Europe that could double the restaurant chain's value. But while he was busy looking toward the future, Lorenzo was working on something entirely different. Mia and Alex started piecing things together and came up with a theory. Lorenzo was using the restaurant as a front. The late deliveries, the fake names, the off-the-books inventory, it all pointed to something being moved in and out, hidden behind a 5-star reputation. They began keeping track, discrete notes, time logs, delivery vans that didn't match the suppliers listed. Every time they got closer to figuring it out, something new would happen to throw them off. One day, Alex found his locker broken into. Nothing was taken, but his journal was gone. Just a warning. Another night, Mia noticed her phone had been moved from where she'd left it during her shift. Whatever this was, it was bigger than just one chef being shady. And if Lorenzo was willing to go this far to keep it quiet, then Mia and Alex were in deeper than they ever expected. It was the night of the investor dinner, the biggest event Charles had hosted in over a year. The restaurant was glowing, polished to perfection, with every detail checked twice. Influential guests, including food critics, business partners, and even a well-known celebrity, were expected to attend. Charles believed this night would seal the deal for his European expansion. To him, it was a celebration. But to Mia and Alex, it felt like the edge of something dangerous. They had spent the last week quietly gathering as much evidence as they could. Mia even recorded a short video of Lorenzo meeting a man near the back alley, their conversation muffled but their body language tense. Alex found an old delivery invoice with a company name that didn't exist online. It all pointed to something illegal, some sort of smuggling or laundering operation hidden behind the kitchen doors. But they still didn't have the full picture, and with every step closer, the risks were growing. That afternoon, just hours before the dinner, Mia found something she wasn't supposed to see. Tucked behind a loose panel in the storage room, she discovered a hidden compartment. Inside were sealed packages, unlabeled, carefully wrapped, and definitely not food supplies. She didn't touch them, just snapped a few photos and quickly closed it up. Her hands were shaking. This wasn't just shady business now. It was criminal. She showed the photos to Alex, and for the first time, he looked genuinely scared. They were running out of time. Whatever Lorenzo was doing, he was planning something big, and the investor dinner might just be the cover he needed. With so many eyes on the restaurant, it would be the perfect distraction. Mia suggested telling Charles, but Alex hesitated. What if he already knows? He asked. That thought hadn't occurred to her, but now it was stuck in her head like a splinter. Could Charles be turning a blind eye? Or worse, was he part of it? As guests started to arrive, Mia moved through the dining room like everything was normal, but her heart was pounding. Every time Lorenzo passed by, she could feel him watching her. And then something happened that made her blood run cold. Lorenzo pulled her aside and smiled too calmly. "You're doing a great job tonight," he said, then leaned in just a little closer. "Don't go sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." It wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. Now Mia and Alex had a choice. They could stay quiet, pretend nothing was happening, and hope to walk away safely. Or they could take a risk, one that might finally expose the truth. But with Lorenzo watching their every move and the room full of powerful people, one wrong step could cost them everything. Mia stood frozen after Lorenzo's quiet threat, her heart thudding in her chest. She knew now he was onto her. Every step she took that night felt heavier, like the walls were quietly closing in. The dining room buzzed with laughter and music, the investors clinking glasses and praising the food. But in Mia's head, alarms were blaring. She needed to act, but she also needed to be smart. One wrong move could make her disappear into the background permanently. Alex met her by the coffee station and whispered just 2 words. "We've got company." She followed his eyes to the far corner, where a man in a dark suit sat alone at a table. He wasn't eating, wasn't mingling, just watching. Mia hadn't seen him before, and neither had Alex. His presence didn't match the investor list, and he seemed to be focusing on the kitchen door more than anything else. Was he with Lorenzo? Or someone else entirely? That's when the second twist hit, hard. Just before dessert service, one of the kitchen runners came sprinting to the front, pale and panicked. The walk-in freezer had been broken into, and something was missing. Lorenzo flew into the kitchen, barking orders, pretending to be outraged. But Mia saw through it. He wasn't surprised. He was angry. Not because something was stolen, but because someone got too close. Alex slipped away and returned a few minutes later with something he found in the back hallway. A torn page from a ledger, one of Lorenzo's secret books. It listed 2 sets of inventory. One for the restaurant, one coded with initials and numbers they couldn't fully decode. But one thing stood out, a name scribbled in the margin, C. Whitmore. Charles. Mia stared at the paper, confused. Was this proof that Charles was involved, or had Lorenzo planted it in case something went wrong? Either way, it changed everything. If Charles was part of this, Mia and Alex were in deeper danger than they thought. If he wasn't, then Lorenzo was already trying to frame him. Then the lights flickered. For a brief second, everything went dark. The music stopped. A hush fell over the crowd. And when the lights came back on, the man in the corner was gone. Maya's heart dropped. Something was happening, and fast. This wasn't just about hidden storage or missing shipments anymore. Someone else was pulling strings from the shadows. And now, with Charles' name in the mix, Mia didn't know who to trust. One thing was clear, tonight wasn't just a dinner. It was a setup. And if they didn't act soon, they might not get another chance. Mia and Alex moved quickly. They didn't have time to think anymore, only act. With the ledger page tucked in her apron and adrenaline pushing her forward, Mia slipped into the back hallway, motioning for Alex to follow. They had to find Charles. If there was even a chance he wasn't involved, he needed to see the evidence now, before Lorenzo made his next move. They found Charles near the wine cellar, entertaining a guest. Mia stepped forward, heart pounding. "I need to speak to you." "It's urgent," she said, her voice low but firm. Charles, surprised by her tone, excused himself and followed them into the staff hallway. That's where Mia showed him the ledger scrap, the photos of the hidden packages, and told him everything. Quick, but with enough detail that there was no room for doubt. At first, Charles said nothing. He looked at the paper, then at Mia and Alex. His face was unreadable. Then he muttered, "I had suspicions, but not like this." His voice was quiet. "He told me the backdoor deals were to keep suppliers happy. I didn't ask questions. I trusted him." That trust had nearly cost him everything. Without waiting, Charles pulled out his phone and made a call, not to the police, but to someone in his private security team. "Lock the doors," he said. "No one leaves." Within minutes, the mood in the restaurant shifted. Staff whispered. Guests began to notice the unease. Lorenzo, still in the kitchen, sensed it too. He stepped out, and when he saw Charles walking toward him, flanked by two security men, his face turned stone cold. "What is this?" Lorenzo asked, trying to sound calm. "You tell me," Charles said. "Or should I let them search the storage room again?" Lorenzo didn't answer. Instead, he lunged toward the back door. But security was ready. They tackled him before he could take a step outside. From his coat pocket, a second phone clattered to the floor. Maya recognized it. It was hers. The one she thought she had simply misplaced days earlier. Lorenzo had taken it. He'd known about her all along. That should have been the end. But just as the police arrived and began their search, the final twist unraveled. One of the investors, an older gentleman who had shown a strange interest in the kitchen tour, was quietly escorted out by another officer. His connection to the smuggling operation went deeper than anyone guessed. Lorenzo hadn't acted alone. As Lorenzo was led away in handcuffs, Charles turned to Mia. "You saved my entire business," he said, his voice tight. But Mia wasn't celebrating. She looked at the ledger again. There were more names, more codes, and more secrets waiting to be uncovered. This wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning, the restaurant didn't open. For the first time in years, the lights stayed off, and the front doors remained locked. Police vehicles came and went, and investigators moved through the kitchen, storage rooms, and offices. News started to spread. Billionaire restaurant empire rocked by smuggling scandal. But what the public didn't know yet was how close everything came to falling apart completely. Mia sat outside on the back step, sipping a warm cup of coffee as the early light crept over the street. Her phone buzzed with messages, but she ignored them. She needed a minute to just breathe. Charles came out and sat beside her, no fancy suit today. Just a simple sweater and a tired look in his eyes. "I never imagined it," he said quietly. All this time, right under my nose. Mia nodded, still processing everything. The second phone, the packages, the secret ledger, the investor who turned out to be the silent partner in the scheme. Every piece of it pointed to something bigger than any of them expected. Lorenzo had used the restaurant as a front for years. Charles had trusted him, believed in him, and nearly lost everything because of it. But in the end, it was Mia, just a waitress, new to the job, who saw what no one else did. She didn't have power or experience, just instincts and courage. And that had been enough. Alex joined them a few minutes later, holding a brown envelope. The officers gave this back, he said, handing it to Mia. Inside were the photos she had taken, the notes she and Alex had written in secret. All of it had been added to the case file. She looked at it one last time, then folded it shut. It was over now. Over the next few weeks, the story continued to make headlines. Charles publicly cut ties with the investors linked to the scandal and promised to rebuild the restaurant with transparency and new leadership. Lorenzo and the other accomplices were facing charges, and a full investigation was underway. It wasn't the expansion Charles had planned, but it was a clean slate. Mia didn't stay on as a waitress. Charles offered her a new role, something bigger, something with purpose. She accepted, not for the title, but for the chance to help build something honest. And as for Alex, he stayed too. They didn't talk about what happened much anymore. They didn't need to. They both knew how close everything had come to disaster. And they both knew how quickly things can change when the wrong person is trusted, and when the right person chooses to speak up. Sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that save everything.